And that song was Machine Head by Bush. And thanks for joining us here at the Zombie Apocalypse Survival Radio. This is Harper, DJ Clueless, and it's been a while. It's been a while because we have been in the business of planting. I cannot tell you how much dirt I have had under my hands over the past 3 or 4 months. It's been crazy. I feel like all we have done here at our little settlement is plant, and harvest, and then can. It has been fairly endless. But we did have a stroke of luck. As I've shared with you, different people seem to have different abilities, the most scary of which being Violet being able to set people on fire. By the way, nobody knows where she is. She and Jim from Seattle disappeared. The zombie hordes disappeared with them. Malcolm tracked them for a while, but lost touch with them. But last he heard, they were headed up north somewhere. Jim knew of a settlement that had basically taken over some sort of treetop village. It was once a high ropes course, but then when the zombies came, they turned it into basically the Ewok village from Return of the Jedi. So they were headed up there because a lot of other pikers had settled there, because apparently when you kill a certain amount of zombies, the zombies come after you. Or at least that is our working theory based on what we have heard and seen so far. Once we pointed out to Jim from Seattle, so hey, seems like they're all following you. He was able to connect the dots and be like, oh crap, so you mean other people have settlements where zombie hordes don't show up like daily? And we were like, yes they do. So that was a revelation to him. Malcolm and the plant have refortified. I think they now have ditches upon ditches, ditches with the zombie traps basically, and he was pretty happy. No one's happy when a zombie horde attacks, but he was pretty happy with the plant's defenses and how well the plant staved off the attack. The psychological effects were really the main problem there, because, when you have people inside going crazy enough that they're wanting to let the zombies in, that's a big deal. It's a big problem. And so he is implementing having some people, and, credit to him, Malcolm is collecting people at a very rapid rate. The plant continues to grow and swell, and, to the extent that they still have plenty of room, but their manpower is almost where Malcolm wants it to be. And I'm sure once he gets it where he wants it to be, he'll move his goals, and he'll need more manpower to do the new goals, because that's who Malcolm is as a person. But right now, what he is implementing is there were quite a few people who were able to recognize the early signs of the Z terror, turning people into just let the zombies in. So he has those people writing out what they've seen, what they saw in the people close to them who had the Z terror, and what phases. And so they're going to take all of the people who watched this play out, all of their accounts, and see what the common notes are. So far, they haven't done that because, honestly, zombie fortification was a lot more important. Malcolm always has everybody debrief orally before he has them write it out. That way, you have the fresh memories. And, when you write it out, a lot more comes to you, and you're able to think of a lot more. And he even has people listen to the fresh memories as they're writing stuff out, so it triggers more. But, before I left, I spent a while helping refortify the place. They brought in more fencing. There's talk of a wall. Like, Malcolm's he's not playing. He is not playing. And that's really good, because we have this summer lost a couple of the settlements that we had just started initiating trade with. And one of these settlements was not really very far. It was a very, very nice little horse ride away. It maybe took a couple hours to get there, which, these days by horse is pretty good. And they had a lot of goods that we wanted. They had people who were shoeing horses. They had people who were actual farriers who could check out a couple of the horses we had that were ill. And they even came to us to do that, so we didn't have to travel with sick horses. So we were giving them produce. We were giving them we're here in in basically a college that was set up for agriculture. So we have taken full advantage of that, including repurposing some of the gates and fencing, and we have a much more intricate fence system now than we used to. So anyway, we we helped Malcolm, and he told us to expand our trade, and so that was how we met this, and they just called themselves, New Colony. I really thought the apocalypse would have cooler names, but New Colony, the plant, all of that. Anyway, none of us apparently had the energy to come up with decent names for any of this stuff. But New Colony fell, and we had talked to them about the various safety protocols and the various things that we did. And they initially started off doing the strip searches, to make sure that nobody was bitten, because one bitten can really destroy a colony, and New Colony found that out. Apparently, they were basically checking limbs, Everyone took off their shoes and socks, kind of like the old airport rules. And they checked arms and legs and necks and that sort of thing, but they didn't check torso. And we told them a couple of times that was a bad idea. And last time we were there, Queenie basically said, look, if you guys aren't doing the full search, we're going to stay outside of your gates. We'll trade out here. Nothing personal. We're just a little more paranoid about safety rules. Queenie's very good about making her boundaries seem like her own set of peculiarities. She plays it off in such I just have these eccentricities, but you'll be nice to me, won't you? So people are not offended by it. And it's really, really nice, because I have had people very offended that I'm not coming into their colony or, farm or plant or missionary house or whatever they're calling their particular settlement. There have been so many names. But we lost New Colony. We went with a few of our horses that needed to be shoed. And when we got there, it was zombie town. It was zombies locked inside the walls of New Colony. And that was the part that was so messed up, is we got to the gate where normally, they have people out on watch. Because if you have a gate, you kind of need people out on watch, because, your people come back. You need to know if zombies are trying to come in. We aren't really, like, we haven't had a whole lot of raiders or people coming to steal our stuff. I think in part the fact that we have a lot of really good shots. And so when we have somebody on guard duty, a raider's not going to get far enough in, before the whole group comes running. So the point to all of this is all of the zombies were on the inside. They were nice and neatly locked inside New Colony. And I had a moment of sort of almost wishing I had Violet's power of, hey, let's explode all the zombie heads. Like, that'd make cleanup a breeze, wouldn't it? And instead what I had was a moment of, do we kill all of these zombies? Or do we just let them live in this little zombie town they can't get out of? Killing all of them makes sense to me, because the only good zombie is a dead zombie. But if there is some sort of tipping point number where if you've killed a certain amount of zombies, the zombies start congregating and coming for you. Like, I wish I had an accurate count of how many zombies I've killed up to this point. I wish I knew what that tipping point number was when they start coming after you. And I really, really hesitated. Luckily, I was not alone. Queenie and Priya both had come with me. And normally they don't both go. Usually one's left behind to manage everything at home. And one's left to negotiate. Or they just send me. Because, during June and July, especially when growing things was and is even now our primary goal, our primary mission. We're building fences and growing things and canning things so we have food. It's very, very busy. And it's one of those where I'm almost a little worried about winter. Not because I don't think we'll have enough food. I definitely think we'll have enough food. Especially since we've been trading with other places, like we have just cases of canned goods to trade with others to get other items. So, and I'm not going to go into all of the trade routes because they're changing daily. Because again, we lost New Colony and we had that trade route for maybe 2 months. And Queenie kept pushing for us to get all of the horses taken care of. As a matter of fact, when New Colony fell, their farrier was with us. And it is a tragedy to lose New Colony. It was random luck that New Colony fell and he managed to survive it. So our horses are taken care of. And the farrier's one of the more popular people in our settlement, but that does not take away from the sadness of his losing his colony. And he had even said that he was pretty sure the lack of strip searches was going to screw the colony over, but he didn't know how to convince them to do it. Apparently it was the committee, the head group that was in charge of New Colony was very anti-nakedness. And he didn't know if this was some sort of prude thing, if this was a post-trauma thing, if it was a religious thing. He didn't get very many answers, in part because the man was busy. Like, now that most people are using horses as transportation, at least in this area, he's a busy man. He's a very busy man. We have been finding all kinds of animals. An amazing number of goats. I had no idea so many people in Southern Illinois had goats, but we now have a lot of goats. So, Malcolm has all the cows, we have all of the goats, and We swap cheeses. So, but that's what I mean by having enough people. You need to have enough people to take care of the goats. You need to have enough people to make cheese. You need to have enough people to can the goods that the other enough people are bringing in from, the gardens. So I say gardens as if we aren't. I mean, we have some acres going on. Like, we have really been on it. One of the other boons that we have gotten outside of the farrier is oh, he's good with gadgets. This man showed up, and he looks like Belle's dad from Beauty and the Beast. He's short. He's got the almost Albert Einstein hair coming out in tufts where it's not balding on top. He's got the glasses on his nose, and I thought he was a mad inventor. But really, he's a gadget genius. And I think that there's some sort of magic involved there. Kind of like how I can do my truth thing, and, Violet can set people on fire. I think you can give this man any kind of gadget or mechanical device, and he will make it work. And I don't know how he does it. He's not necessarily certain how he does it, but it happens. And most notably, he showed up somewhere towards the end of April, beginning of May, and he knew how to get the tractors running and convert them to, biodiesel. And more importantly, he knew how to make biodiesel. And so how he makes biodiesel and how you're supposed to make biodiesel are not the same. He does a whole lot of different things. I have tried to write down what he does to make biodiesel, but every time he makes it, it's different. And so I'm not getting an actual pattern, which is why I think he's magic. Because if it were just mechanics, it would be recreatable. I'm not the only one watching the guy. We need tractors. We need to be able to plant and do all of the other things faster. And tractors help with so much. I mean, just bush hogging and getting hay, for all of the animals. Tractors are essential for. So anyway, and that's not even getting into the bigger farm machinery, which we have not delved into yet because none of us know how to operate it. But our mechanical genius guy is certainly giving it his best shot. And he has not realized yet that Queenie and Priya only have eyes for each other. But his love for both of them seems to keep him highly motivated to give them any gadget they want. So the three of them get along great and seem to have a little bit of a council of what we're doing next. They have been very good about plotting out what to do next. And a lot of it's seasonal. You plant here, you reap everything here, you can everything here. There's a rhythm to it. But one of the things that has been really great for trade is our cannabis crop. And that is pretty much all Priya. Priya was apparently a grower basically as soon as Illinois allowed medical cannabis. So she knew how to grow, and she grows it, and it is one of the things that people want to trade with us the most on, more than food, which has kind of surprised the crap out of us. Priya was like, I wouldn't have grown all those potatoes if I realized we just needed that much pot, which kind of made me laugh. But I'm like, I'm actually pretty glad for the potatoes. So, potatoes good. So it has been used medicinally, recreationally, and a bunch of others. A lot of different uses. Apparently, at the end of the world, getting high is a priority. Who knew? Who knew? So, New Colony, when it fell, I basically had just this moment of being stuck and not knowing what to do about the zombies. But what it boils down to, as far as my belief system, and I'm not, and never was like a hardcore Christian or anything, but I do believe that we have a soul, and I do believe that there is an afterlife that hopefully is better than this mortal coil. And to that end, I'm pretty sure zombies have no soul. I feel like there's an intelligence to them, but the way a puppet has intelligence. And, that's a vibe. That is not any scientific, accurate anything. That is my feeling, my read on the situation based on vibe, not based on anything other than what I've seen with my own eyes. I am hoping that with this radio show and us having people access us via all of the other means they can access us. I mean, we have a whole communications cabin going at this point. We can pool our information and kind of determine how we all feel about this, how we all think about it, because we've all had very different zombie experiences. But one of the ones most of the people that I've been around have had is them acting like a school of fish. At nighttime, the glowing red eyes that all turn and look at you at the same time, even when you haven't really made a sound. There's a certain eeriness where it does feel like there is a malevolent intelligence moving through the zombies. But I don't think that malevolent intelligence is the soul of the person. However, in my whole nightmare brain scenario is, oh my God, there's actually somebody trapped inside that flesh prison. And so you want to rip them all, rest in peace, all of you. And so we ripped all the zombies because, as Priya said, we can't leave our friends this way. And that's really what it boiled down to. And so we ripped New Colony, and then we salvaged whatever we could from New Colony and brought it home. And then after that initial salvaging, an entire salvage party went there the next day and brought home a lot more fencing, a lot more supplies for walls. I mean, once New Colony had been fully ripped, we pillaged it. There's not even really a sign of it there. We took everything. And I felt bad about that. But at the same time, the surviving members of New Colony are the ones that were with us, the ones that were visiting us. The farrier, his family, thank God they came with him. And, a few other people who wanted to kind of get the look of how we were doing our farm work, how we were doing the gardens, and get an idea of how to implement some of the stuff that we had implemented. So we looked at it less as us just robbing the corpse of New Colony blind, and more whatever New Colony had will be used for its residents in a different locale. And honestly, I know some of the people from New Colony, and they'd have been okay with it. They'd have been okay with it. And I know that because before New Colony fell, Little Seattle fell. I have no idea why it was called Little Seattle. I think maybe because they had a lot of coffee. It started in a Starbucks and kind of built a colony out from there. And this, when New Seattle didn't fall because a zombie got on the inside. It fell because they had just started fortifying an outer wall. And what they had done is take pieces of the inner wall for the outer wall. And they were at this critical point where they had just a small enough breach. And the bad luck that is the zombie apocalypse continued. And that small little breach, while they were just carrying one panel from the other, was enough for one zombie. Just one zombie got in, one person got bit, but there was enough of a population that bitten turned and bit another, and you know how it cascades. Well, New Colony took all of the supplies from New Seattle to build New Colony. So really, we are using New Seattle's stuff too. And, in a lot of ways that seems to be the way of the zombie apocalypse, is you take what is no longer being used and repurpose it to use it, because nobody's making more, at least not for a while. Right now, we're still just trying to survive heat, survive cold, and feed ourselves. Oh, and survive the zombies. Yeah. Oh my God, the zombies seem super interested in all of our farm work. So pretty much every field has to have fencing around it. And we have doubled and even tripled up on fencing, because the zombies aren't a contaminant if they walk through your vegetable garden, but they do destroy everything. So it's the same as any other yard pest, basically, So we have several fences, and they are working on a moat with pikes in it. Because, if a zombie's on a pike, he's not climbing out of the moat, was the logic. I just kind of feel like if they're in a moat, they're not climbing out. You dig it deep enough. And our gadget guy thinks he knows how to get a backhoe working, which would be fabulous, because we've been out here with shovels, y'all. And I got to tell you, it's 93 degrees outside today, and you can shovel for about 10 minutes before you die. Thank God for the solar panels and for fans. I'm a big, big, big fan of fans at this particular moment, because it is so hot, and we have to do the work. But what we have found is super early in the morning and super late in the evening are the best times to do the work. It is still stiflingly hot, but it's not so stifling hot you feel like you're going to die. Whereas, pretty much from 11 a.m. until 7 p.m., it's so hot you think you're going to die. So anyway, I have a whole lot more that we're doing. I didn't mean to just give you guys bad news about 2 colonies falling. But that's just 2 that I know of, 2 that were in distance of trade. Malcolm knows of about a dozen that have been created and fallen, and been created and fallen. And he's trying to figure out why the ones that failed. And we know with New Colony, it was a lack of full body checks. Because I'm sorry, if you are in the grass and there is an ankle biter and you're relieving yourself, you may have a bite on your butt cheek. We have seen that so many times. It seems to be one of the favorite spots for the ankle biters to get you. Anyway, I've gone off about that before. I don't need to do that right now. What I need to tell you is, if you're part of a colony and you feel like you need help surviving, talk to me, talk to Malcolm. Reach out to us. Okay? We can help. And we will help. There are more colonies being created every single day. I'm hoping that any new colony that needs help, advice, food, reaches out to us. And if you are on your own, know that things are being rebuilt, and all you need to do is survive, survive, survive. This is DJ Clueless. Until next time.